Salone del Risparmio 2014, siamo qui con William Davies, gestore azionario di Threadneedle. William, quali sono le prospettive di mercato per i prossimi 12 mesi?
Well, at Threadneedle, we're optimistic about the outlook for markets as we go forward. We think there's a lot that's gone right in the world over recent years as we emerge from the depths of recession. We characterize it as a normalization which is actually occurring around the world. So if you look in the US, for example, we see the withdrawal of quantitative easing. A lot of people see that as a risk. We see that as a good thing because the US economy is starting to grow once again and grow sustainably without the help of quantitative easing. If we look at the cost of energy within the US as well, they have a competitive advantage there with the low cost of natural gas. So if we look at the US, we see a reindustrialization which is going to occur over the next couple of years. And that increased investment, that increased capital spending is going to help the economy and help the market as we move forward. In Japan, the normalization is one of the return of inflation. So the return of inflation after 15 years of deflation is really going to change the outlook for the market. Markets at the moment have had a bad quarter, and we see this as a buying opportunity in this particular area. In the Eurozone, we see growth, and that's the first time in 4 years that we see economic growth in the Eurozone. So again, a normalization, and we see recovery occurring here. So for instance, it's not just a case in the Eurozone of investing in the exporters. Some of the domestic companies are going to benefit as well. We're a little less optimistic about the outlook for emerging markets. Part of the reason there is that we see growth slowing. It'll still be above that for developed markets, but slowing, whilst the cost side continues to increase. So returns to investors in emerging economies are a little less bright than those we see in the developed markets, particularly in the US and in Japan.
Ok Williams, ma perché un investitore italiano dovrebbe investire nei fondi di Threadneedle?
So why Threadneedle? Well, at Threadneedle we have a broad range of funds. We have funds which will suit different types of investors. So for instance, if we look at our global equity funds, we have the Global Select Fund, which is our mainstream fund for investing in global equities, which has been a strong performer, especially in recent times. We have a Global Equity Income Fund. The Global Equity Income Fund has been in huge demand over recent years. Why is that? Well, it's because it yields around about 4.5% and invests in companies which are growing their dividends. So we see an improving yield for the companies which we're investing in. 4.5% in an environment of lower yield within sovereign bond markets and in other investment areas is extremely attractive. We have the Threadneedle Global Focus Fund, which invests in a more concentrated portfolio of sub-50 companies within the fund, concentrating on sustainable, high return on equity, sustainably high return on equity companies. Admittedly, those companies would be more expensive than others in the market, but again, producing very attractive returns. Elsewhere, we also have the 130-30 products, or the Threadneedle Global Extended Alpha product, again extremely strong performer. Not the fund for everybody because some people won't invest in long short funds, but certainly suits many of our clients or partners, as we like to say. And finally, we have a Threadneedle Global Small Cap Fund, investing around the world in smaller companies with a market cap of less than $10 billion. Those funds will not suit every single independent investor, but we hope within that suite of products there is a product to suit each investor.
William, ti ringrazio molto. Dalla Salone del Risparmio con Threadneedle è tutto.